Hello. This month, as a part of our Science 2.0 article, we are going to take a look at how to use 3D printers to teach design thinking. And you may be wondering, well, why would I even want to worry about design thinking as a science teacher? Well, I think it goes back to the next generation science standards. And when we think about that, practice number three, plan and carry out investigations. And what we really want to focus on here is the plan piece. And when we think about planning out uh, an investigation, it can often be difficult for students because it's not a matter of just coming up with the individual pieces that we want to look at um, for the investigation as to, step one, step two, but also that overall scheme and how we even come up with ideas that are going to work. And that's where I think design thinking can come in. So we had a couple sources in the article that we talked about, including using IDEO to learn design thinking. They have a lot of different classes and course offerings that you can go through and take a look at. The piece on storytelling is kind of interesting because if you recall from previous columns that we've written, um, what happens is we want students to really tell the story of a science lab. And if they're doing that, they're going to really be just telling a story. And so that can help out. The other source that we talk about is um, the D School from Stanford and their sources. And you can Google both of those, and the links are in the articles. But we'll actually highlight one of the places that we use in our work with both teachers and in students is the virtual crash course video. And you can go through, it's a 90-minute course or activity. They tell you what the materials are. In this particular one, you're doing the gift giving project, which is redesigning it for a person. And it's really, I think, a good idea to start with something that isn't directly related to the content or the activity that you're doing, because it gives you a chance to experience what the process is like, and that's really critical. So you are redesigning the gift giving, so you're going to talk with your partner about a gift that you've given in the past and whether it was a good um, experience or a bad experience for them, and you go through and you'll see it says no previous design experience required, and you go through this. There are other challenges that you can look for. One is the morning routine, so it's the same type of thing where you may look at someone's morning routine and how you might be able to help them. And what we do is the boot camp bootleg, which allows us to download all the documents we might need for doing this. And so that becomes really interesting. Now, if we look at the design process itself from the D School, you can see the steps are listed here. Empathize, where you try and become um, uh, get a good feel for the problem that it's not necessarily someone, but even in a classroom, or what the impact might be, or if you have a door that won't close properly or doesn't stay open properly, and you're going to try and design something to fix it, you really want to understand like why that might impact things. Then you have define, where you further refine that problem and you come down. Ideate, where you brainstorm ideas, and then prototype and test. So you're going to build prototypes, and this is where 3D printing can come in, because 3D printers allow you to fairly quickly, print out something that you'll be able to use, and then the next or last step is to test it out, and then you may cycle back through. So we mentioned, like what are the stages of design thinking, and you've seen them right here, but how could we possibly get started? So one of the things that we think about is using design software and some ways that we might get people started with it. And this is Tinkercad, which is a free tool. And I have like an umbrella stand holder. So if you think about a table, they might have a large umbrella that goes down through the middle. And I've designed this. You see, I put a hole there where we're going to put the screw threads. And so this is not complete yet. But what is it like? How do you put that together? And the nice thing about Tinkercad is it's shape based. So what you can see is that here are the shapes that you're going to use, and Well, this isn't necessarily a tutorial on Tinkercad. What I'd point out is this is the solid version, and this is the hole that it can make. So you can see, like in my particular case, what I have here is I have a hole that will go right down the middle, and there's another hole that will come through. And so when we think about like what are the parts that make up that umbrella stand, like right here you can see, it's just two cylinders. Really, we start with one cylinder, then we go to two cylinders, then we stack them together, then we put a hole down the middle. And so that's how you work through Tinkercad. And you can learn Tinkercad very quickly under the Learn link there. So if you want to learn about things, it has step-by-step lessons and it has projects. But quite honestly, we start out by just showing people just about what I showed you, and then we ask them to replicate an object. And this is the object that we use. It's a shelf bracket. So you can see, it's been built. And you might say, well, what shapes are there? And it's kind of an interesting style because as we look, um, Jared and myself have actually designed this in two different ways. So one of us used rectangles to construct these lines and put the holes that you see in there, and then others could use the roof or even the wedge tool to make very much the same object. And so this is a great way to get started. And here's how we have designed it. So where we have our 3D printers and we're looking for students to be doing their work, we will put out an introduction video and then a learn series, and this really just links out to Tinkercad tutorials. So this is how you get started in that particular station. Then we have the replicate it and the apply it. And if we take a look at this, so for the replicate it, again, grab that furniture bracket, measure. So I mean, you're bringing in other scientific skills that are going to be important here as well. But really, we're just trying to get them to learn how to use design software. And if you have high school students, they might already be familiar with things like SolidWorks or AutoCAD or even Revit, some other types of software. We talk about SketchUp is another one that you can use. And so you can design very quickly in those stations, and then you can print them out. Again, fairly quickly and make adjustments. The final stage is where we ask students to apply things. So you try to find a local issue. Now, remember, this is sort of combining 3D printers and um, and design thinking. So they sort of go hand in hand. But what I would go back to is all the way back to the beginning. Why would you want to do this? Well, we want students to be able to plan and carry out their investigations. And so we think that this is a great way for students to start learning about how we can go through it, not thinking about the scientific method, which might be the steps that you would go through in conducting an experiment, but actually the design of the experiment. Design thinking can come in and play an important role here as well. And so you want to make sure that your students are exposed to this and can use it. And then this is a great tool for things like the science fair or experiments, all types of places where they may work. And we can take a look at how science curriculum can sort of fit in with this so that we're not just using 3D printers to sort of print just manipulatives. And that's fine, but there are other things that we can do with it. Now, next month, we're going to take a look at how do you think about what type of 3D printer will best fit your needs. And I think that sort of as the teaser for that, so you may have like a really nice 3D printer that costs a lot of money and you can get great things out of it, but is that your prototyping tool? And I'll just leave you with that thought as to how do we want to really give students the opportunities to get engaged with 3D printing as much as possible. So we'll look forward to talking to you next month where we'll give you those details on how to pick that best pick that printer that'll work for you.